This came up on a search for dragon skull on Google. Everything else I saw were models and artwork which I knew weren't accurate to the native form. They all looked like the stereotyped dragons that you see in fantasy, with those angular lizard or dinosaur-like heads. This skull has more of a canine appearance, which seems to be a closer match to the newborn, and to some of the depictions of dragons in mythology. The artist measures the length of the skull at 70 centimeters, or 2.3 feet, and that's consistent with a creature that's 10 feet tall. Most interpretations of dragons put them at gigantic sizes, 20 feet long or more. This one gives a realistic size, so that suggests that this is based on the drac's actual form. The individual who drew this is obviously a drac. No human would know this much about their anatomy. Very few humans even know they exist. These two are reverting their maxilla bones, which has caused their front upper teeth to slant outward, where the tips are far out in front of the bottom teeth. That's how it looks in the drawing, so that's further support for this being accurate to the actual skull. We've also seen that the newborn's fangs have somewhat of a forward slant to them. The forehead horns wrap around the skull and end up pointing towards the back. That's the same on Arnold and the female imitation. The side view shows that the base of the horn is bone, surrounded by a cutaneous layer, and that beyond the end of the bone, it becomes purely cutaneous. So that vertical section of Arnold's horn must be the cutaneous extension. Looking at the drawing, it appears that the back horns don't have bone bases, that they're entirely cutaneous. They're also much smaller than the forehead horns. This guy's back horn is quite large, but that's in relation to his human-sized head. When his head is fully reverted to its native form and size, the horn will obviously look smaller in comparison. You can see that this skull would fit inside the newborn's head. The shape and proportions are very close. The newborn's jaw is long front to back and relatively narrow top to bottom, just like the skull. As I said, the newborn is wearing a mask with mechanical eyes, so those aren't its real eye sockets. The real eyes are under the mask, positioned further back. The eye unit and hood have made the top of the head taller, but without that, it would probably look very similar to the drawing, except that the newborn would have the center ridge on the top of its head. Looking at this, it's clear that much of the newborn's cranial length is actually due to the extension of the horns. The skull does have an elongated cone-shaped cranium, but the horns extend much further out than that. I've defined the edge of the mask to make it easier to see the dragon's head. That's very close to the skull in the drawing. In this shot, you can see that the bottom edge of the newborn's jaw has a concave curvature, and that matches the skull in the drawing. The back of the jaw has a similar shape as well. Also notice how the mouth curves upward at the back. That's the same on both of them.
Title: Dragons are real and they masquerade as people. Intro, spoken. You ever look someone in the eye, and for a second, just a second, you swear it wasn't human slit pupils? Cold stare. Like something ancient looking through a mask of skin. Yeah, you felt it too. Verse 1. Dragons are real, and they masquerade as people, camouflaged amongst the crowd, blending in like it's legal, from penthouse floors to subway doors, They walk the earth unnoticed, shapeshifters in the morgue, I seen 'em in the markets, breathin' fire with they eyes, in suits and ties or rags and flies, still whisperin' lies, rich or broke, middle class smoke, it don't matter the type, some sell crypto, others just hustle a pipe, they lurking in the churches, behind the preacher's veils. Politicians kissin' babies while they draggin' you to hell, from Fortune 500s to the neighborhood fiends, they all got scales underneath their human routines, and we have no way of knowing unless they show their slit pupils directly to us or let the truth unfold, change into another form in front of our eyes, and that will be our demise if we believe the lies. Look. They walk the streets in flesh and clothes, cold-blooded breath in the wind that blows, smile in your face, but you don't see the sequel, dragons are real and they masquerade as people. You think you know who is fake, who is evil. What if the mailman is not even a real individual? Camouflage truth with propaganda so lethal, dragons are real and they masquerade as people. Verse 2. Yo, they've been here since the Babylon bricks were laid, since pharaohs prayed to serpents in the blackest shade, they taught kings how to kill with a subtle word, then hid inside bloodlines, now they run the earth. You see Elon, or Bezos, or even your neighbor, it nt about class. Dragon forms don't waver, that bus driver with the kind eyes might just ignite, or your teacher cracking jokes could take off in flight. See, they run the system like a hologram cloak, injecting lies into your veins, till you mentally broke, waving flags made of flames, selling freedom in chains. They don't want your soul free, they want your spirit in pain. It nt about race, color, or creed. It's infiltration, across every nation, in every station. You'll never know till they blink and reveal their disguise. That will be our demise if we keep trusting the lies. Look. They walk the streets in flesh and clothes, cold-blooded breath in the wind that blows, smile in your face, but you don't see the sequel, dragons are real and they masquerade as people. From crack dens to stock trends, they slither and plot, every class got a beast that you probably forgot, rich, middle, poor. It's a spectrum of evil, dragons are real and they masquerade as people. Bridge, spoken sampled. It's not just the elites, kid. It's the one who serves you coffee, the cop on the beat, the girl who acts softly. They all got scales, some hide 'em better than others. Verse 3. Your pastor might be a lizard in robes, your boss might be reptilian goals, that celebrity you worship look close at the glint, you might see a flicker when the camera lens blinks. It's deeper than conspiracy, it's hidden reality. We're sheep to a predator's primal anatomy, a silent war fought not with guns but perception. They morph in the shadows and dodge all detection, from Rome to the White House, underground roots. They slither in packs while you're caught in doubt, but the truth leaks through like a reptile's grin. When they change into another form, you see what they've been. And that will be our demise if we keep trusting the screen, feeding off fear in this cold-blooded machine. They're not just kings, they're your neighbors and friends. Dragons are real and the masquerade never ends. Final hook outro. They walk the streets in flesh and clothes, cold-blooded breath in the wind that blows, smile in your face, but you don't see the sequel, dragons are real and they masquerade as people. Open your eyes, you might just see, that what you think is human is fantasy, and unless they show their slit pupils to us, we won't know, until it's too late. And the fire starts to grow.
As you can see, a dragon skull has to go through drastic changes to take the form of a human skull. Compress the skull from front to back, and the height and width to a lesser extent. Pull in and reshape the cranium, maxilla, and jaw.
compress the horns into the forehead, change the shape and orientation of the eye sockets, nasal cavity, and cheekbones, and morph the teeth into the shapes of human teeth. Now you have a dragon skull that looks like a human skull. It's still a dragon, with the same reptilian physiology, cells, and DNA, but with the shape of its body changed, along with the characteristics of the cells, hardness, elasticity, color, and so on. That's basically how they do it, and they could imitate any creature in this way.
This is a different type of dragon skull drawn by the same artist, Draco aureus solus, in other words, a golden sun dragon. There are different human races and different species of animals within families, dogs, cats, birds, snakes, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were multiple species or types of dracs. This skull has more of a reptilian appearance, similar to that of a predatory dinosaur. It has those extra openings in the sides of the maxilla and cranium, and there's an abrupt angular transition where the maxilla meets the cranium, which is mostly flat across the top and sides, box-shaped. Another unusual feature is that the mandible has openings at the back. It appears that the skull sockets into the jaw, whereas on most animals, the jaw is socketed into the skull, under the cheekbones. The skull is also much narrower than the one on the right, and its structure is obviously less robust. Again, it's entirely possible that there's more than one drac species present here, and they may all possess this polymorphic ability. However, I'm quite sure that the newborn is the one on the right, because it has the wide skull and matching mouth and teeth. The one on the left just doesn't fit well with the newborn's head. This could be the difference between Arcturians and Orions, two different species of dragons.
He's telling the truth. I'd like to talk to him about this dragon.
It's a dragon.
This was supposedly recorded in mountains of Chile. It could be real, but I'm not sure. It does have long curved forearms like the newborn. It looks like it has 3 fingers on each hand. It also has back-pointing horns like the skull in the drawing. If this is real, it definitely shows that they are a draconian race, very different from New Age depictions of reptilians, which have meek-looking humanoid forms with lizard or snake-like heads.